This is Michael Bean from Aliens, Terminator, Planet Terror, and The Abyss. Don't forget Tombstone. Well, take this advice. Don't go out there! Stay frosty.
No one believes me. I know what I saw.
In a world where zombies, ghosts, serial killers, and vampires all exist, it's Nico, Brian, Mike, and Dustin, and they are all that stand between you and the films that could end the world. Welcome to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Review Podcast, powered by the Big Three Roll Up. Just want to give them a shout out. Super excited to be back tonight. Just want to give a quick shout out to our social medias, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. We've got all of our episodes up there. Me and Mike actually just recorded a minor spoiler instant reaction to Spiral from the Book of Saw. If you want to check that out, everyone wants to hear Mike's luscious voice. So go check that out.
God.
And a quick shout out to our website, don'tgoouthere.com, where we have all of our links to our social medias there. We have all of our interviews, episodes, celebrity shout outs, our store, and our blog. Just give our website, just check it out. We have all of our content that involves us is there. And tonight's going to be a fun episode. You know, recently we launched a Patreon type thing called Blood Donors. And, you know, we have a legendary tier where, you know, a guest gets to pick a movie that they want to review with us.
Hey, sit back for just 10 seconds of your time and let me tell you a little bit more about this blood donor thing. So we've launched this new Patreon-esque campaign. It's called Blood Donors. Yeah, I love the name of that, by the way. But we've created 5 donor tiers. Look, it gives you the opportunity to earn different perks with donations in exchange for you helping us keep the lights on. You know, you can earn t-shirts, autographed pictures. You can even join us on an episode of your choice. Please do not pick Halloween 3 or Jason X. But any donation goes straight to helping us with web hosting, SoundCloud hosting, guest procurement, you know, just things like that. You know, we have some of the best loyal listeners. We don't take that lightly. We love each and every one of you. Can't believe every day that we get to do this. This is a dream come true for us. Just go to don'tgoouthere.com, all one word, don'tgoouthere.com, and click donate. And oh yes, there will be blood.
And we've got, you know, she's already a super fan of the show, Miss Jo Larson. And she picked 2007's Disturbia. Do you want to just give us your general overview, Joe?
Yeah, I like this movie, even though, I mean, it's kind of had its screenplay time as far as the plot goes. But I liked it. Plus, it wasn't what everybody expected me to pick. So, throw everybody off their game a little bit. Yeah.
Definitely did.
You're welcome.
We hadn't already reviewed Candyman. Jeez.
Yeah.
Brian, what's your general overview, man?
Yeah, so I'd actually never seen this all the way through because I have seen Hitchcock's Rear Window, but I'd never actually seen this. You know, I've heard people say it was just a ripoff, so I'd never really given it a chance, honestly. And this may be blasphemous, but honestly, I liked this better. It's fun. It had some issues. You know, I would have maybe liked to have seen a twist at the end, you know, maybe setting you up to think it's like Rear Window and then hit you with something different, you know, maybe Ashley helping him or something. I don't know. But, yeah, we'll get into it. You know, Shia LaBeouf, hit or miss for a lot of people. Personally, I love him. You know, I think he's fantastic actor. You know, most of Hollywood's a cesspool of crazy, so I kind of let people have their own personal lives. But on film, I think he's amazing. And this movie is no different. Obviously, David Morse, I think, steals the show, though. Honestly, just an amazing cast. One last thing I wanted to mention, the movie definitely dates itself, you know, with a ton of like period-centric references, the technology, everything. And you know what? I mean, that's okay. If you listen to my Rob Zombie reviews or my take on It Follows, I said it then, you know, I'll say it again. Own it. You know, people understand when a movie was made. People understand that. Okay. I mean, it's set in this time period. You know, this is what they had then. I think it adds charm. And, you know, that kind of may seem like a weird word to describe it, but I think it's kind of perfect, actually. This movie is very charming to me in a lot of ways. Kind of has that millennial, teenager, early 2000s kind of charm to it, and I liked it.
All right, I'll go next real quick. This movie is fun, like Brian said. There are some nitpicks I have, a little bit about the technology in one scene in particular. But I really like this movie. I think it's fun every single time I watch it. I agree with Brian 100%. I think Shia LaBeouf is incredible in this movie, and he is absolutely right. The man who played Mr. Turner was David Morse. He was
Yes.
awesome as well, super creepy. Uh, I think the movie is great, and I think the supporting actors were very supportive. I think they were very good as well. This movie is fun. I have nostalgia with it, and I'll tell about that at the end when we do our rating. But yeah, this is a really fun movie with little nitpicks, but every single time I watch it, I enjoy myself.
Yeah, so this movie is also nostalgic for me as well. I enjoy the film. I think it's a really good thriller. You mentioned the Hitchcock film, Brian. This movie is better to me. And I'd only seen the quote unquote original ones. This isn't an exact copy. It's not a shot for shot remake or anything, but the premise is very much the same. But I think this is a better modern retelling. And so I think it's pretty good. It's got some flaws. There's about 35, 40 minutes of the movie that they're good, but there's nothing, which is fine, by the way. We had plenty of that on this show. We had a horror comedy month, for God's sakes. But there's about a 30, 45-minute part of this movie that's just not scary or suspenseful in any way, but then it really kicks up. And so I think that I enjoy the ride for what it is. You guys mentioned Shia LaBeouf. I think he's really good. I don't like him in everything. And I know Brian, he mentioned being a fan. There's some stuff I don't like him in. But in this role, I think, a younger Shia LaBeouf kind of embracing this role. He has a really good scene later in the movie I'm going to point out. But I think he's really good. I think the supporting cast is really good. The man who played Turner is also just creepy. He gives off weirdo vibes, man, and I think that he plays that role so perfect. And there's some, my only nitpick, and it is a small nitpick, the way this movie is shot is kind of weird for me. It's almost about the last like 30 minutes of the movie. It's very shaky. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but it's just something that kind of I always notice when I see it. But again, fun ride. It's not perfect, but it's very of its time, and also a bad ass soundtrack. It takes me right back to a place in time. I know exactly where I was when that's the music I was listening to. Shout out to System of a Down because Lonely Day kicks ass. Also,
Yeah.
I know they don't advertise with us, but
they should.
They
thank
should.
you.
Pastor Ribbon should also. They should respond to my DM. I really like this movie as well. This movie, like Brian said, I'm a big Shia LaBeouf fan. From Holes to Transformer, which came out the same year as this movie, to this, even going back to Even Stevens, there's something about him. He's very likable to me. Now, like you said, we can separate his personal craziness, his personal life craziness from his work. And in his work, I really enjoy him as an actor. It's got Trinity from the Matrix trilogy. Carrie-Anne Moss is in it. And like you said, David Morse really killed this role. And Sarah Romer, however you say her name. This is a great cast of main characters in this movie. I remember the first time I saw it, I remember seeing the cover art or the poster, and then when you watch it, it really didn't feel as like, okay, when is Mike kind of touched on this? When is the drama, the mystery, the thriller? When are those elements going to kick in? Because it does do it has a very like drawn out subplot, and I don't mind that when you're watching it though, because some movies it can feel like, okay, let's just get to the action, but in this one I think it works. I'm at least intrigued enough and entertained enough by the characters to where it doesn't feel like it's dragging, which is a movie's biggest sin, is being boring or feel like it's dragging. And overall the runtime at an hour 45 minutes isn't terrible either, so no complaints there. It's just something that when you're watching it the first time, it's like, when is this going to get quote unquote scary? But man, when it does start happening though, the intensity picks up and you're in it, and you're just glued to the screen. So I'm really glad that you picked this movie, because I had it on my list of potentials. I've got a list that's probably 200 movies long that I would like to review one day. That's an exaggeration, a little bit, just a little bit. But with us constantly doing different themes, and then a movie will pop in my head like, oh yeah, I'd rather do that one. So I'm glad that you picked this one to take that burden away from me, because this is one I feel like is needed.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and we just did Friday the 13th, 2009, so we'll wait on part 7 for a little while.
I'm saving one
Hey,
in my back pocket.
Joe, I'm glad you didn't pick part 7, because I really hate to have a guest on and just defecate upon the movie they pick.
No, you
I
don't.
listened to the rankings episode. That's why I didn't pick that movie.
Y'all ready to get started?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Man, just like The Descent, The Descent, man, this opening scene is so sad. Poor Kale. Film starts with Kale and his dad fly fishing. Kale's dad encourages him as a big fish follows his fly. Fish on, then fish right back off. Dad tries to comfort him after losing the fish, so they take a break. They share a bottled Coke together, and he tells Kale he appreciates him coming to spend time with his dad and not his friends. He asks if there's anything he wants to talk about, and he jokingly says he's having a kid and they're going to live in a trailer park. The joke's over and they start fishing again. And I wrote, there's a lot of beautiful scenery, you see. They call Mom and tell her of their trip, and a truck passes by them, and Kale gets angered. The truck swerves in front of them, and Kale crashes into a broken down car in the road, flipping them over. Another truck now hits their overturned vehicle. Kale crawls out in pain and realizes his father is dead, and he's devastated. Title card. Now we're in class a year later in Spanish class. Ronnie talks to the class and makes them laugh with his speech presentation. The teacher says he could give him an F, and everyone starts laughing. The teacher calls on Kale to no answer, then throws the eraser at him. He wants to hear Kale's plans for the summer. Kale doesn't know what to say or what's being said. The teacher goes off on him and asks for a good reason not to fail him, and asks what his father would think. Kale punches him in anger. Kale is now on trial, and he's a repeat customer. The judge gives him 3 months house arrest as a break. His probation officer puts on his ankle bracelet. They know where he is at all times, and the incarceration fee is $12 per day. And I just wrote, sheesh, have fun paying that. The cop on his case is his Spanish teacher's cousin. Probation officer tells him to stay busy in a constructive way. Kale's playing Xbox now, and all of a sudden he loses his Xbox Live connection. Now he's eating peanut butter dipped in chocolate syrup and Red Bull, watching TV. He goes into his dad's office now and just to look around and just feel. Now he's in his dirty room and his iTunes account has been shut down. He watches bikini girls on TV and his mom walks in. He switches it to the news about a man convicted of murder. He asks Mom about canceling his accounts, and she says he needs to clean up his room and the kitchen. She unplugs his TV and he gets sassy to her. She grabs the scissors and snips the power cord. Clean up your room, she says, and leaves. Kale calls Ronnie and says his bracelet is so itchy and he's losing it. Just tell him what's going on in the outside world. Now he's doing a piss poor job of laundry, dishes, and now he builds a Twinkie tower. Kale's now in the bathroom, scratching his ankle violently. There's big tension between he and his mom. We see him asleep now in his game chair. He wakes up and looks out the window and sees they're getting some new next door neighbors, and he's quite attracted to the young lady. He answers the doorbell, and it's a flaming bag of dog crap on fire. He stomps it out and chases after the kids. His bracelet goes off, and he turns around and runs full speed to his yard. The new neighbors look on awkwardly. The cops show up and still cuff him. He sees the girl again and is infatuated. All right, that's the opening scene, Brian. What did you think?
The opening scene I thought was just wow. I mean, I love the natural dialogue between Shia and Matt Craven, playing his dad. It felt real, and that's another thing about the dialogue in this movie, just totally period, like all around. I think it's great. I know a lot of it was improvised, and props to director DJ Caruso on that, because it helped the lines feel real, feel genuine. But yeah, this opening scene was very quick, but a lot happened like in a very short amount of time. It was very well written, I think, in that it was very powerful. Honestly, I'll admit it made me tear up. It's very easy for me to empathize with scenes like this, and it definitely triggered something in me emotionally, and a lot of that has to do with such a perfect score that plays throughout this entire thing too. Mike kind of touched on it. It's not something that really stands out in some crazy way, but the best way to put it is that it's kind of like it's a perfect score in perfect places, I guess. It's subtle enough to trigger the emotional responses I think that it really needed to. Um, Again, this cast is amazing. We touched on a lot of them, but we didn't really talk about Viola Davis, who's she's like Hansel in Zoolander. She's very hot right now in Hollywood, and so to see her in this small little role, I was like, wow, this cast is just crazy good. And and Dustin touched on Carrie Ann Moss a little bit. I don't think she gets enough credit as an actress. I mean, I know everybody knows her from The Matrix.
Agreed.
But I mean, The Matrix is a lot. I mean, I know it's acting, but that was a lot of just physical stunt work, and I don't think that that's fair for her because I mean, Memento when she was in, I think she's just a very fantastic actress. And I said in the opening, I love the little spin that they kind of put on Rear Window with it being the teenagers and this early millennial generation. I guess it's millennial generation this time. Zennials, I guess maybe early Zen. I don't really know, but that whole point in time. But you see it from Kale's eyes, which is it's the same no matter the generation. Really, it's relatable because everyone at that age sees their house as like a prison. They want to fly the coop. They're right on the cusp of being able to do that, and it drove us all crazy at that age. Coming from someone who has a kid in this generation, I mean, this is still relevant. You take away his games, or TV, or Wi-Fi, they're bored as hell. They feel like they're dying. They don't know what to do. Being over dramatic, that whole thing I think was played out perfect and still stands up good today. Lastly, I kind of talked about the movie having charm to it. And along those same lines, or along those lines, period, Steven Spielberg was actually a main driver in getting this film made because he believed in the heart of it. And you can see his fingerprints all over it and different aspects of it all over the place as well.
Yeah, so I love this opening scene. It tugs right at the heartstrings, and really, what I think it shows the acting chops of Shia LaBeouf. We kind of touched on it in the beginning of the show, where you could kind of go back and forth on the person of Shia LaBeouf, but some of the acting, you talked about they look like father and son. Brian kind of touched on just how natural the dialogue is there, how seamless it all feels. It feels like the father and son. It's really, the fishing scene is sweet for lack of a better term, and they set that up so well, it makes you devastated about the car accident. They're talking to the mom on the phone. It's just so well done. You know, movie nerd moment, but the way the car scene is shot is intense. It's just sad. It's a really good opening scene that kind of makes you feel for Shia LaBeouf's character, even though he may make some bad decisions along the way. It puts you in a place where you can have empathy and sympathy for him, and I think that's really good. First of all, I also would have beat the shit out of my Spanish teacher, or whatever teacher he is. I would have beat the ever living hell out of that guy with a 2x4 covered in barbed wire like I was fucking Mick Foley. I would have beat him down. So I understand getting arrested. Totally get it, man. Honestly, I think it would have been worth it. 3 months house arrest to beat his ass would have been totally fine with me. Um, it kind of is a plot narrative throughout the whole movie, but I love the fact that they really harp on the ankle bracelet. I think it kind of starts in the scene where they put it on him. And Viola Davis is there, which you mentioned, Brian, and God, I watched it this time and I was like, that's right, she's in this movie. So what a cool little moment to kind of go through, like, oh yeah, look at her, how to get away with murder, and the help and everything else that she's great in. But so the scene, so we're going into where he's kind of stuck at home. You get a little, I mentioned at the top, you get a little System of a Down music there, a little Lonely Day, which I think is really great. And you got to remember, this is just one day. Like, it literally is one day of him being stuck at home. And it kind of just, Brian mentioned it, so dramatic, so over the top that a teenager can't handle one day at home right there. And Nico, he broke it. When you said he's eating the peanut butter dipped in the syrup, first of all, I get it, kind of, okay, maybe a little too gross for me, but I would have tried it. But then you throw Red Bull in it, that's a heart attack right there, brother. That's not the dump. I know he had to end up taking a big dump, but that's a trip to the ER and a violation of your parole. So, whatever. Um, but I love the interaction with him and his mom. I think the scene is played really, really well. How she's just kind of like, no, you need to get your shit together. So again, you're empathizing with the character that Shia LaBeouf is playing, but you're also on the mom's side, like, no, take this time, let's do some good stuff. And I think the acting is really, really, really good there. And the last thing I really have is the chemistry, the chemistry between and like I'm really bad at taking character names, but the on screen chemistry with Shia LaBeouf and his romantic interest is natural. It's you could see it. Now, I have a nitpick about their quote unquote relationship later. I'll save it. But so far I could see that, I could see them as a real life couple, so I have no problem with it. But that's pretty much all I have. I actually really like the set of scenes. And also a bag of dog shit lit on my porch, I would too also break my house arrest to beat the ever living shit out of those little kids with the same 2x4 that I beat my teacher with. So, Mick Foley, hardcore legend, I would go full Mick Foley on their ass.
All right. So, like I said, I picked this movie because the first time I saw it, I remember really liking it. I saw it in the theater when I worked at the movie theater, and everybody and their brother wanted to go get free tickets to go see it with me, so I saw it a whole bunch of times in the theater. The opening scene hits me in the chest every single time I watch it, even though I know it's coming. It's really well acted. I like that it's improv. I think I like Shia LaBeouf as an actor. I know a lot of people don't like him for whatever reason. They think he overacts or whatever. But I think he's a good actor in the movies I watch him in. They're fishing and he loses the fish. Oh, I feel that on a personal level. Too many times I have felt that.
Nico the Bassmaster would never.
Would never. Yeah, so I think Viola Davis is awesome as too. I always forget she's in it too because she's such a small role, but she's such a great actress, and even for such a small role, I think she does really good. When Kale walks into his dad's office the first time, like, it's funny because like when you have a parent die, you really don't want to like touch anything, like change anything. My mom's got a shitload of these ridiculous knickknacks all over the place in our house, and we're not gonna move them. Nobody wants them there, but nobody will move them. So I feel that when he walks in there and he doesn't want to touch anything, he doesn't want to move anything, like you can see that in his face. When mom comes in, she's being all dramatic and cuts the cord. That would be me as a mom. That would be me. Even though I'd have to buy a new TV, that would be me as a mom. I also wrote, so when Kale's talking to Ronnie on the phone and Ronnie hangs up because he's talking to the girls in Hawaii, he violently like closes his phone and throws it. Like, you can't do that kind of stuff anymore. And it really, like, the impactfulness of being able to like close your phone really hard and chuck it on the ground. Things that you miss about the 90s and early 2000s.
The good old days.
Yeah, the good old days. Nico, when you said he was doing a piss poor job at laundry, I wrote, literally the way he's doing laundry and dishes gives me anxiety.
Yeah.
So, and I read this on a fun fact, and I'm going to say it now instead of at the end, but the Twinkie Tower, when he was doing research for the part, he actually was asking people that were on house arrest, like, what did they do to keep themselves busy, and that's where he got that idea. Well, I think that's all I got for this set.
Yeah. So in the opening scenes, I love the dynamic, between Kale and his dad. I mean, the opening scene does a really good job of making you sympathize with Kale, and that helps when he punches his teacher, right? Because naturally, when you got a character that's on house arrest and a quote unquote felon, as his mom calls him, your instinct is to be cautious of them and view them in a negative tone. But you really feel for him so much because of the trauma he went through. It's like, yeah, I can understand punching your teacher. And so they did a really good job of placing the main character under house arrest, but not alienate him and making him a bad guy off the jump. And so I thought that was a great opening scene there. And then I love how the judge is like, stay busy. And then mom takes his Xbox, iTunes, and TV away. It's like, damn, mom, you want your son to go crazy? What are you doing? And so you really feel bad for the guy now. Like, he's been through so much, and now he's going to be stuck in the house with nothing to do. And Nico, you've got such a way with words. He does a piss poor job of doing the laundry and everything. And then I wrote, it's a good thing that they put this flaming bag of dog shit on his door and not old man Clemens, because Ted Clemens really hates poop. But
it's a poop again.
Ted put it out with his boots again, and almost she didn't call the fire department.
They called the
poop. Back to you, Nico.
All right. Kale's on the phone with his probation officer and asks how is the cop not a conflict of interest, and she tells him not to let it happen again. Kale now sets up items around the yard with strings so he knows where to stop running and all that, so he doesn't leave the yard. He looks on at all the neighbors free and living their life. Kale runs inside when he sees the neighbor girl get home. He goes back into his dad's office and looks through the window and sees the girl and her mom. He now watches her undress. Ronnie arrives at the house and he shows him his neighbor's case of infidelity. Now to another room and we see Robert Turner, who mows his grass a lot. He shows the Ding Dong Ditch Kids room, and now, where we see the neighbor girl Ashley swimming. They watch her walk around and sunbathe. Kayla's outside now trying to get the mail, but struggles as he can't reach it. Ashley comes over and asks if he needs help. She hands it to him, and he lies about the cop incident. He asks her about the move-in experience. They joke about Martha Stewart, and Ashley's mom calls her inside. That night, Kale watches TV as his mom sleeps. The news talks about a Ford Mustang with a possible dented front fender involved with a murder case. Kale is in his room now watching Ashley do yoga through binoculars. He thinks she's seen him and freezes, and he starts to watch on again. He sees her dad barge in their argument. He watches her as she lays on her bed, and it seems she looks right at him again. He falls asleep in the chair and wakes up and heads to his bed. He hears a car with loud exhaust and goes to look out the window and notices it's Mr. Turner driving a blue Mustang with a dent in the front fender. Kale gets jump scared by his mom now, and she asks what he's doing. She tells him good night and I love you. Newspaper headline is of a woman missing. Kale crawls to the fence and watches Mr. Turner mowing, and Mr. Turner starts to crawl to the fence saying, "What are you doing staring at my beautiful garden?" It was just a rabbit, and he carries it away. Very impressive that he caught a rabbit with his bare hands, by the way. Kale and Ronnie talk about the missing girl and attach it to other kidnappings from Austin. Kale is staring at Ashley sitting on her roof. She goes down to the pool now to swim. She undresses slowly and tests the water. Ronnie watches on and bumps loudly into the window. He doesn't believe she heard it as Kale calls him a jackass. Kale looks out the window to see her swimming and she looks up at him. They see her leaving the pool now and they see she's gone. Doorbell. They can't believe it. They answer the door and yep, it's Ashley. She asks what took so long. He asks what brought her over and she says she got locked out. So she comes inside to play video games with him. His room is a dump and he and Ronnie start to clean up rapidly. And she grabs his binoculars and asks if he's spying on the neighbors. They bring up the murders from Texas and accuse Robert Turner. 60s era Mustang with a front fender dent. The garage door opens and the Mustang has no mashed-in fender now. Kale can't believe he fixed it that fast. She notices his longhorn skull, making it him, obviously. She asks, where's the coffee and the donuts? All right, Brian, that's the next two scenes I got.
Yeah, I can't believe he fixed it that fast either. Hey, I'm just wondering, Nico, what was that kid doing when he was riding on that big wheel down? What was he doing?
Riding the fuck out of it. Throwback to The Shining.
Don't go out there.com. Listen to it there.
I'd like to see those two kids getting a big wheel race.
Danny's got it.
An
Danny's got
elite
him.
film just asked our co-host Brian Hathaway.
Can't hear you, Mike, on your Android phone. Sorry. Okay, so
hey, I have an iPhone, asshole.
Anyway, okay, so yeah, Mike kind of touched on this earlier. I wrote the same thing, that Aaron Yu is literally playing the exact same character from Friday the 13th, 2009. But I will say again, the dialogue, especially between Kale, Ronnie, It's great. It's not just like people reciting lines from a script. It's not perfect. It's not flawless. It's real. And I really love that, and it really stands out to me in this. Just a little touch like Ronnie completely ignoring everything Kale is telling him until he says something about the titty tat, and then he totally pays attention. That cracked my ass up. Um, Again, soundtrack is great. Another great example, use of it here is the jump scare here, where Kale kind of sees his blue Mustang, for the first time. His mom interrupts him. I thought that was great. A little jump scare there. I'm going to use this word again, but charm. There's great chemistry and charm between the cast of these three. Although, and I'll say it again later, Ashley is extremely underwritten and I think underused in this movie. And that's one of my biggest and more pretty much my only gripes here because, I feel like she doesn't have anything to do, especially towards the end. And I'll get into it. But Sarah Reamer commands the scene, I think, with those three, and she's just so great in this. And I feel like her character is just severely underused, and even Ronnie is to an extent. And last, I want to touch on this too, and I'll be done for this set of scenes. But we talk about the music being a character of its own sometimes, but they use the ankle monitor so well in this. It's almost like it's its own character, if that makes sense in this movie. It's just the way that it's utilized, like with the boundaries. When he's trying to call the police later on. I think it's fantastic the way they utilize that. But that's all I have for that set of scenes.
Yeah, I agree about the ankle monitor, and I kind of touched on that where I think it's almost like a plot device to kind of move the story along. It's so prevalent in the scenes, and I think it's kind of fun how they use it. They almost use it like a tease, like, oh, is he going to go over the line? That's the reason I like the lines being there in the yard. I think the rope in the yard is a nice little added thing, and it makes some of those scenes more fun. When he's trying to look over the fence. Later in the movie, he's like his toe is barely on the back of the line. Like a lot of that stuff is really fun, and I'm glad that those things are kind of prevalent throughout the scenes. Him kind of getting to know the neighborhood as if it's like its own reality TV show. I really like that. Now it's a little creepy, and again, small nitpick about it later, but you know, just in general, what else are you gonna do when you're on house arrest? I guess besides look through your binoculars and see what your weirdo neighbors are doing. Like I can totally see that. I agree about the dynamic of these three. Ronnie, Kale, and Ashley are a really good group of characters. I do agree with you, Brian. The other two are really I don't know if underwritten is the right word, but definitely underutilized, especially Ashley, who I think is more than just proper eye candy for the film. I think she can really, really steal a scene when she's in it. The first introduction to her coming over there, that dynamic, the way they kind of drool over her and like can barely get their words out. I think that's really a really good, fun scene. And I think that again, you can see how those three would be hanging out in real life. And so I like when a movie has a more of a sense of realism to it. Mr. Turner, which not to be confused with the GOAT, Mr. Turner from Boy Meets World. Shout out to Brother Dustin. This one's creepy. He likes to cut his yard a lot, which look, I mow grass for a living, so I know a lot of decent people that cut their grass, but nobody cuts it like 3 times a day with a push mower, which is another annoyance of mine. Man, get a damn zero turn, my brother. Come on, man. But anyway,
I have a push mower. What the hell?
you heard what I said.
I
Well,
enjoy it.
you probably have a dead deer in your blue tarp bag too. So anyway, that's pretty much all I have on those scenes. I think I love the teases with the ankle monitor and the ropes, and they get even better as the movie goes along.
All right. So I think it's funny that this is kind of like how we all felt at the beginning of COVID, like house arrest. We couldn't leave, so we're all kind of weird and maybe not finding murders in our neighborhood, but
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, I was causing them.
true.
Wait.
That escalated quickly.
I had a whole bunch of new neighbors at the beginning of COVID. I also want to say that girls typically don't undress in the daytime with the blinds all the way open.
Oh, see, this is why we need a
Daylight?
women's voice on this show. See, we didn't know that kind of
What?
thing. We thought you just always did that. Hey,
Damn it. My whole life,
Sorry, guys. Sorry.
life,
Whole life
dreams
is
and
a lie.
aspirations are lies. What?
Straight up. If they do, they're probably facing the window on purpose. I'm just saying. Um,
That's why my neighbor does that.
Fair enough.
see?
I gotta get on
Keep
to Miss
binoculars
Jenkins.
out. So, oh yeah, I like how Kale like waits for her to get home to try to go get his mail so he can meet her. I thought that was pretty smooth. And that line about Martha Stewart, that was pretty funny. The part where he sets an alarm to go watch her do yoga, I think it is. Look, he is committed. Like
Committed
Relatable.
or creepy?
I'm just
Committed or
saying,
creepy? He toes a
all
really
of the
fine line
above.
in this movie.
All of
Either
the
way, I'd proudly wear that hat if I was her neighbor at
He,
that age in my
he
life.
he's the
just
two, he's the
like
two.
my man.
If his name starts with a C and not a K, then he's the three C's. Kale, committed, creepy. Let's go.
So anyway, so when Ronnie gets back from Hawaii and everything, and he shows up, and then Ashley shows up to his house. So, so this is the last thing I was gonna say here. Ronnie is the MVP of Friends, like helping him clean his room frantically because his girl's coming over. Just saying, everybody needs a friend like that. That's all I got for
He
this
also
one.
like almost gets axe murdered 3 times in this movie for Kale. So yeah, everyone needs a friend like Ronnie for sure.
That's true. He
Yeah,
like, yeah,
but
he does.
at the same time, a friend of mine would need to take better social cues and get the hell out of the house and let me have it alone. Anyway,
Yeah.
um,
Don't you have
so
something to do? No.
yeah. So backtracking a little bit, I meant to mention this on the last set of scenes, but it, it is a Spanish teacher, Mike, that he punched in the face, and in the Spanish versions, the Spanish dubbed versions of this film, he actually was teaching Italian, and so I thought that was interesting to know. But on this set of scenes, yeah, man, talk about a perv alert. Bro's just creepily watching Ashley in broad daylight with his curtains open, like he's not even hiding it. Never mind the fact that she's getting undressed. Like, I don't know. You have a good point. I can't speak from a female perspective, but I would expect someone to feel safe and secure in their own home without people watching and looking in. This man is
Her
in the middle
blinds
of the
are
day.
wide open.
Listen,
And they're in a neighborhood now.
I didn't have curtains or blinds in my house for like a year and a half on none of the windows. No shame in my game. And
Thus it's trolling.
then I realized this is probably not good because someone's going to rob me. They're going to look in and see I'm not home. So I put curtains up. But anyway, I mean, yeah, when you're in your own home, I understand the blinds are open and everything, but you feel secure in your own home. So she's just getting naked. This man's watching her, and he's not even hiding. But anyway, regardless, I do like how smooth Kale is with his words. I mean, that man's a wordsmith. I like how quick-witted he was when she's coming over to help him, and how he started to warm her up a little bit with his humor. I was like, I was proud of my man there. And then we get our first tense moment of the movie when he's watching what's his name, Mr. Turner, through the fence, and then you're like, oh shit, he sees him. And but you don't, I don't know. I got over that really quickly because to me, if I feel like he's looking at me and he's talking to me and walking towards me, I'm probably going to get out of there. But he just laid there, so you kind of knew that it wasn't going to turn out to be bad. But still, I thought that was at least our first tense moment because up until now, you kind of forget that this is a thriller movie. It feels like a deleted scene from Transformers. And yeah, like I mentioned, Ronnie's got to take better social cues. I understand he's a good friend, but you got to get the hell out of there. He's got the girl of his dreams in his house. Just leave. You can come back later. It was funny though
Absolutely.
when Ronnie showed up and he brought him the can of macadamia nuts. I thought that was bizarre, but what's even more bizarre is that apparently that was Steven Spielberg's idea that he thought of just like the day of. It's like, hey, how about you bring him a can of macadamia? Spielberg, you're a genius mind, and you thought like, oh, that's my big idea. We'll have him bring him some nuts. I don't know why, but that really bothers me. Um, and then the last thing I have on this set of scenes is I'm a little baffled. Either she is doing it in broad daylight, getting naked in broad daylight because she knows he's watching, or she's the most naive person alive because she's in his room. She sees that he's watching his neighbors, and she doesn't put two and two together and get freaked the fuck out and leave. Like, oh my God, you can see my room. I don't know. She probably would have got out of there and told her parents because that's some hardcore creepage right there. She just
Hey,
busted him, just, whatever.
dude, they should have bought the rights to that Rockwell song that Michael Jackson sings the chorus to, and just used it right
Yeah.
there. Because that, and also you mentioned in the Spanish dub of this movie, the Spanish teacher's teaching Italian. Imagine if they just like instead of actually getting some Italian, somebody to speak it, they just use the lines from Inglourious Basterds. It's Brad Pitt saying Arrivederci over and over again.
Why does your mind go there? What is wrong
I
with
don't
you?
know. Arrivederci.
Mike just look. You guys can't see this because this is a podcast, but Mike just like came out of nowhere a second ago and looked like Chubbs from Happy Gilmore. He was just like, boom, Coach Chubbs, just damn alligator popped up, bit my hand off, and I was just like, whoa, where the fuck did Mike come from? That's what you just did just then.
It's the reason I can't look at the screen when I'm talking because I will laugh.
I speak second most Italian.
That night they do more research on the murders and get more camera equipment. She now says she's hungry and let's order pizza. Ashley plays on Kel's phone, and now every time Ronnie calls him, he'll hear me so horny. She now starts to paint hearts on his ankle bracelet. Hey, stop laughing. I'm trying to read here. He, he asks her now why
You
her
are a
parents drug
damn
her here.
wordsmith, Mr. Chin.
Can you do that again? I want to make that my voice, my ringtone, but in your voice.
Everybody set their phones to record right now. Let's go, Nico. Say it
Hey,
again.
you know how you used to do back in the day. You put your phone right up to the radio, record, that'd be your ringtone. There you go. Just do that. All right, where am I at? Okay, he asked her now why her parents drug her here. Mom wanted to get dad away from the temptations of the big city. She asked him his issues now, and Mr. Turner gets home and another car follows. He brought a woman home. The two go in the house and they watch them take shots and him get denied for a kiss. She starts to dance for him now, and Kale plays music off iTunes to match her moves. We now see on the camera Mr. Turner grabbing a knife, but it's just to cut the price tag on her dress. Ronnie wakes up and interrupts them, but Kale has him leave. Ashley gets a call from Mom now, and she has to go home and ask Kale if he'll walk her home. He goes in for a kiss, but my man gets a big rejection as she goes in the house. Kale watches her go upstairs as she closes her blinds. Kale sees the prankster kids watching porn on their TV, but turns it off as Mama walks in. We hear a lady scream, and Kale goes back to watching Mr. Turner's house. He sees the woman panicking, trying to escape. He sees Mr. Turner grab her, but accidentally hits the flash on his camera pointing at his house. He falls to the ground and watches on at them. We see Mr. Turner look directly into Kale's house at him through his binoculars. Ronnie calls him and he tells him all about what's going on. Kale sees the redhead leaving the house now in her car. Next morning, Kale wakes up and goes downstairs to get a bagel. He cuts it up and is jump scared by Mr. Turner in his house. Kale is super defensive, and Mom tells Kale that Robert helped change her flat tire. He asks Kale if he can look at his bracelet, and Kale lashes out when he asks how'd he get it. Mom goes outside to get the milk, and Mr. Turner asks about his teacher, and Kale says he punched him. Mr. Turner asks his mom on a date, and he says it won't happen, but plays it off as only he can't go. All right, Brian, that's the next few scenes. Go ahead, brother.
Man, how good is Robert fucking Morse in this movie? Like, I mean, I knew that dude could act. I loved him in The Green Mile, but woo, I mean, in this movie, he really shows those chops off and is just so damn good in every scene that he's in of this. Apparently he's a method actor and didn't speak to Shia or any of the other teens at all while they were filming. LaBeouf said that he was friendly when they stopped filming, but he wouldn't speak to us while we were filming. I like I said earlier, he's the foundation of this movie, though, and I really think is the reason why that I like it so much, in my opinion. I don't have a lot on these set of scenes. I wrote down more, on the charm and the natural interaction between Kale and Ashley here, and how, in no way did anything ever come across as cheesy or anything other than honestly natural again. So, or between them. So again, props to Caruso for that. That's rare, especially in teen movies like this. Another little fun fact that I think was in the last set of scenes, but I didn't get to. But when Kale is spying on Mr. Turner, cutting his grass, through that gap in the fence. This shot is actually like forced perspective. Like the house behind David Morse is actually only a 6 foot by 5 foot section of decorated wall, but it was positioned in a way so that it would actually look full sized from the camera's point of view. So David Morse is actually taller than the set behind him. So I thought that was actually a really interesting little fun fact. The story really ramps up quick here, in this group of scenes, and it was exactly at the right time for me personally. I was ready to kind of progress the story. It was charming. It's been charming up to this point, and it was the right time though to kind of progress it and kept me very locked in, as an audience member here in this set of scenes.
Yeah, so I like you, Brian. I don't have a ton on this set of scenes, really, because I'm not saying that not a lot happens. Nothing, like you said, it's kind of time to kick up the energy. There really wasn't a lot to comment on outside of, you mentioned the on-screen chemistry between the three and just how great Morris is as Mr. Turner. You know, this last rewatch, I had forgotten he's in the Green Mile, which is ridiculous because I quote the way he says the word jerk constantly in that movie. In the Green Mile, he calls Percy a joik instead of jerk, which that's just an accent thing, I guess. But it clicked for me. He is a tall son of a bitch, so he would be an intimidating dude to live across across the street from when he's the one potentially murdering people. The scene, when he brings home the call girl, I think it is our first like real intense scene that we get. But I almost wish they had not done the thing where someone walks out to her car and you think it's okay, like, because I think that's way too big of like a, I don't know, red herring's not the right word, but it's almost too big of a false flag. Like you think, because in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, she's obviously dead or she's obviously whatever. But again, that's a nitpick. I do think the acting is great. There's just not a whole lot of meat to the scenes because, like you said, it was the right time to kind of turn the volume up here. It was definitely, more than enough of, dialogue and banter. Now it's kind of time to get to the thriller, the real thriller part of this movie. And again, not a bad set of scenes, but just not a whole lot to comment on.
I also don't have a whole lot for this set of scenes, but when they're first talking about the kills and the bodies they found in Texas, all right, so horror movies is like my favorite thing. True crime is my next favorite thing in life. They're talking about how the girls were found in walls of like a house, and somehow they don't know who did it. So who owned the house, who lived in the house, who rented the house? Like there are no clues. You know what kind of car he drives, but we can't figure this out. Like there's a lot of things I feel like we can look at here. I think they should have left that part out because he literally said they found him in the walls. Where? Like we probably could have figured out who did it. Anyway, that's a nitpick of mine. Again, Ronnie with the no social cues when they're about to kiss and when they're video, the neighbor, none, zero. And Kale with the zoom button. Okay. Zooming so far in that all you can see is like grainy pieces of nothing. It just drives me crazy every time I rewatch that scene. I'm like, zoom out a little, like you can't see anything that's going on. And then when Turner sees him through the window, and this happens when he hits the binoculars against the window too. Like his lights are so bright. Like how does he not know that he is gonna be seen? Like your lights are all on. Like if you're gonna be a creep, do it right. But he didn't. And the part with the club girl in the house, I actually disagree with Mike. When I first watched this movie, I was like, oh, she's fine. Like he's not a killer. It isn't gonna be just like Rear Window.
Right, I did the same thing.
She left. Like I thought, there's no way he would have gotten in a dress and a wig that quick, got in her car and left. But the first time I watched it, I believed it was her. So I was like, oh, maybe this is going to be a different twist on that movie, but it was not. So, spoiler alert. That's all I had on that set.
Yeah, in this set of scenes, I mean, I wrote we finally get some tension. I mean, we had a little bit when they're face to face through the fence, but this is actual tension because you're like, oh shit, we're witnessing something major here. I do like the scene of them matching up the girls dancing to the music on the radio. I don't know why I thought that was cool. Like that was a nice little my man's got the moves. I'm really rooting for him here, kind of moment. But then when Turner's after she leaves and Turner's going batshit on the girl, like you're like, oh god, he's guilty. This guy's guilty. Whatever they say he did that shit. Then Kel, man, what a klutz hitting the flash like that. And yeah, you're right, Joe. What are you? Kel has so much potential to be a good stalker. He really needs to go to like Joe from You needs to teach him a few things, and then Kel be unstoppable.
I was gonna say
But
he needs Joe Goldberg lessons, brother.
yeah,
For sure.
Joe Goldberg would have Kel sitting right, like he'll never get caught. But that's neither here nor there.
True. He just needs a big storage unit, and he's golden, baby.
And I did like, unlike Mike, I did like the fact that they had him in the wig driving off, because then you're like, okay, maybe things were exaggerating. Maybe that was just some rough sex that the girl was running from. Maybe she was running because she liked it. Who knows what the hell's going on? But
I'm out here fighting for my fucking life.
he obviously didn't kill her, so we're good. But that being said, regardless if you think she lived or not, you still made eye contact with Turner through the window, and he definitely saw you. So if I walk into my kitchen the next morning and I see him in there, I'm probably stabbing him in the throat, and that's the end of the movie. Because I would have shit myself if he was in my kitchen the next morning. So it's either him or me. Fight or flight. He's knife right to the jugular. I didn't write much either, because like you guys said, it's a good set of scenes. Like the action's picking up, but there wasn't. Maybe I was just too wrapped up into it to take many notes during that part.
No, this movie's a build up. Kayla's upstairs now with Ashley, and she jokes about them two meeting, and Ashley noticed her hair. Kayla down the evidence, and Ashley tries to tell the other side of the story. Kayla gets upset when she tells him about her having a party at her. He calls her out for conforming so fast. However, my man's is jealous. He watches her as she has fun at her party, and as she talks to the guys. Kale loses it and grabs a speaker and puts it on the roof and plays some real mood-killing music. I didn't look up the song, but it's a bummer. Doorbell rings, and it's the prankster kids, and they hit him with water balloons. Ashley climbs in the house, and she turns off his music in a quarrel. She threatens to chunk his iPod, and he admits to spying on her. She questions him, and he admits he's been watching, then gets all sweet and sappy. She says it's the sweetest, creepiest thing ever, and they start to kiss. We get a quick shot at Mr. Turner's house of blood splattering in the window, and we see him dragging a wrapped-up tarp down the stairs. Ashley says she saw blood smears. Ashley is spying on Mr. Turner at the store as Ronnie attempts to break in the car. Ashley follows him throughout the store and bumps into Skinny Minnie and drops her phone, dropping the call. Ronnie makes it into the car and doesn't see anything. Ashley calls Cale back and says she lost him. Ronnie panics and Ashley slams brakes when she almost hits Mr. Turner. Ronnie gives Cale the garage door code. Mr. Turner snatches the keys out of the ignition and has her hang up the phone. He says he knows that she's been following him, and he says he's not upset and doesn't want to know why. He says he's shy and reaches for her hair and says he enjoys his privacy and hopes she's not trying to hit on him. He knows she's not the only one watching, and he puts the keys back in the ignition, cranking the car up, and leaves. Back at the house, Cale questions why people... I thought this was funny. He's like, why does he want privacy? Come on, man. Back at the house, Cale questions why people want privacy, and he wants to call the police. Ashley gets the call from her mom, and she tells Cale to just drop all this. Cale calls Ronnie and tells him of his research on Turner's house. He's got the man's blueprints and all that. He notices a change on them. Cale rigs up cameras and ring at the door. Ronnie drops his phone in Turner's car. Why do you want privacy? Come on, Cale. Go ahead, Brian.
Look, the chemistry between Shia and Reamer, I think, is undeniable here. And honestly, I'll say the same thing with Reamer and Morse, in their little interaction there. What's the common denominator? I mean, again, I think Reamer is severely underutilized in this movie. I feel like, what if in this group of scenes, you set something up with her. Like, give her a little bit more like mystery or something, as a layer to her character. Maybe something that could pay off, in the finale with maybe a twist or something, or at least, maybe add a little bit to make her a little bit of a red herring, to maybe maybe she's doing something you're not real sure about. I just felt like there could have been a little bit more, like I said, with her. I thought they had some really good tension with the whole operational stupid, and the the Ronnie stuff. But the parking garage scene with Raymer and Morse is wow. Like, Morse was definitely in his bag with this set of scenes. And like I said, I was honestly expecting some sort of twist, kind of like Joe said, and for Mr. Turner to kind of end up not being that bad, but this scene right here was what flipped me at 180, and I was like, "Holy shit! Okay, well, this dude is definitely fucked up. He's definitely bad." Now, the only question now is, who else is involved in it, or is it just him? So just that whole basically sexual assault, he hit on her with or whatever within the car, and then Reamer's acting was just absolutely terrified and just perfect there. A plus all the way around there, acting wise, just tremendous job. Just a little fun fact: the Operation Stupid line from you was actually Spielberg's favorite line from the movie. So go ahead, Mike.
Spielberg has weird taste for being some genius. I'm just being honest. Um, yeah, so Nico said he didn't look up what that song is. Every time I hear the song he played from the rooftops, I think of that episode of South Park where they do the same song of the "Love You." I can't do it. But anyway, as soon as I heard it, I cracked up. I died laughing. I recognize that song from like season 1 of South Park or whatever. Yeah, so yeah, again, the wordsmith Nico Chin, he said my man is jealous. He was more than jealous. He was steaming on the inside of that house.
He was
Uh,
down bad.
yeah, he was not about it. But again, so I have a small dilemma with the character here. Is this do I like how creepy he is? Like how creepy he had to get her. Like we kind of mentioned the show You and Joe Goldberg. He was very Joe Goldberg in this scene, and it's kind of hard to like not like. If you ever seen the show You, it's hard not to like Joe. The same way it's hard not to like Kale, even though this is creepy as fuck. And he's like saw her reading books and like saw her, and all her interests and weak points and high points. And again, it worked. I'm not gonna hate the play. I'm gonna hate the game. But
Yep.
I mean, it's a little weird for me. It's kind of hard for me to cheer him when he gets the
Like
girl, but
the amount of times you've said "call me sometime," I don't think you could be creeped out by that.
I was about to
I'm
say,
gonna be.
listen,
It's a little
Got him.
different. I'm not looking through the window with binoculars.
no, no, no,
Not
no,
yet.
no. Kale,
Not
Mike
yet. You're right.
Settle, Kale, Mike Settle, me, and Joe Goldberg, we're of the same ilk. Do not try to play innocent right now, Mike.
Cut from the same cloth.
I don't know what you're talking about. I carry a high moral standard and
Shit.
value.
I'm watching this scene. I'm like, he thinks he's me.
You're right. It's hard to dispute that. Honestly, who gives a shit what I think is it works? So really doesn't matter. Um, and again, I'm okay with them being a thing or whatever because you saw it coming a mile away, which isn't a bad thing. Good for my man Kale. Gotta tell Ronnie to get the fuck out of the way finally. Jesus Christ, man. He's a good friend, but he's very ride or die Jackie Kennedy style, but he's also like get the fuck out of the way. And so I some of the stuff where they start quote unquote investigating, I really like that set of scenes. Like again, some of the technology is dated, but it's also a little bit ahead of its time. Like having a camera hooked up to the computer that you can kind of move around. It's like it's a little modern in a way, and I think it cut. Obviously, some of it dates itself. The cell phone dates itself because again, you guys joked that sounds like that's what I'm recording on tonight. It's the cell phone that Ronnie had the whole time, which I understand. Uh, Sorry for the technological difficulties here, but yeah. So I mean, it's a really intense set of scenes, especially in the parking garage, which again we know now full creep mode with Turner. He is a weirdo creep. He tries to grab Ashley and all that stuff, and so again, just some of that stuff is like just I didn't take a lot of notes because I'm into the story. I'm in to find, to kind of see where this goes. And I really enjoyed them, quote unquote. And, Joe kind of mentioned that I too love true crime. These are your internet sleuths before they really existed through podcasting ways. Like very, very investigative, very, wanting to know every little detail about this guy. Why, Kel talks about why does he need his privacy? I don't know. I like my fucking privacy, even though we don't have any of that anymore. So anyway, not to be political. That's all I had on this set of scenes.
Okay, so when she's at her party and her and Kale meet and they're back on his patio or whatever, and he spills his guts to her and they start kissing and making out and everything. I was like, is anybody else thinking she just dipped from her own party and she's gone for like she's gone for a long time?
Hey Joe, girls' perspective, was that creepy?
Yeah.
No, because he didn't say anything about her being like naked in binoculars, peeping in. Even though I know that she knew he was watching her just based on all the looks she gave him. So she's teasing him. She does it on purpose. And then she's surprised when he says that he was watching her. Bitch, you don't get to play both sides, okay?
I always feel like somebody's watching me.
Exactly. She knew. This is also the scene I knew that Turner was guilty because he gets all the way up to the cash register to pay for his shit, leaves, puts the shovel back any old place, doesn't put anything back where it goes. That's a sign that you're a fucking psychopath.
Serial killer.
Yeah.
I will always put stuff back at the stores from now on. I don't want people to think I'm murdering people. No, I'm just kidding.
Now you know. Put your cart back where it belongs. Okay? Okay. She straight just drops his shovel like right at the front. People are looking at you. Dude.
Decisions were made.
Just right here. Decisions were made right here.
I took that as he never planned to buy the shovel in the first place. He knew Ashley was in the store following him, so he threw the shit down and met her in the garage. That's the way I took that.
Oh, that's how I took it for sure, but couldn't even put it back. She lives right behind you. She's not getting very far. Anyway, so he breaks into her car and then asks her to hang up her phone because he thinks it's rude. Like he didn't just break into her car.
Good
Something's
point.
going on there with that. But yeah, this scene right here, like this is where the creep factor gets huge for me. Because like, right where her hair lays, like right on her chest, and he like ever so slightly touches it. Yeah, that's not okay. She's like 16 and you're 100. So definite acting chops there. He didn't even have to do anything really. And it was definitely disgusting. And then Ronnie losing his phone. You can tell this was a different time because Homeboy went all day without knowing his phone was lost. Never looked at it, never nothing. And then finally at like, midnight finds his phone, figures out he left his phone in his car that he broke into. Just, different times.
Or he was so consumed with being a good friend that he didn't even notice he was missing his phone. His phone didn't even matter.
He's a good friend. He's not a great friend.
Yeah.
Doesn't know when to leave. That's a great friend.
That's true. So yeah, I want to touch on something Mike said real quick. He said he compared Ronnie to Jackie Kennedy. He said he's ride or die Jackie Kennedy style. I just want to say though, even Jackie knew when it was time to give JFK some space. She let that man do whatever with Marilyn Monroe. She could take the social cues. So, Jackie's got one up on Ronnie. Anyway, my man Kel was hurt by that party, right? It was so funny. Like, I could see myself being that petty. You want to have a party? You want to hug up on dudes when you know I can see you? Here, listen to this music. That was funny. And then she breaks in the house and steals his iPod there. He just spills his guts. And look, that's going to go one way or the other. Shooter's going to shoot, and I respect the shooter more times than not. And so, yeah, I borderline stalk you, but let's make out. I respect that. So then, we get the scene in the store. She's following him around, reporting back, and sending him the pictures. Man, that's a sign of the times, because nowadays you just pull out the old FaceTime and you're like, I can talk to you and you can see what he's doing at the same time. But no, I had to send pictures. That was funny. But Turner is a fucking pervert, man. Like, she is way too young for you. That man's Bluetooth kicked in and he forgot how old he was. How is she not in high school? And regardless, even if she's just graduated, she's still just graduated. I really wanted Chris Hansen to come around the corner and be like, "Why don't you have a seat right here?" Because that shit was creepy. But this is another good set of scenes to build the tension to get towards the climax. Like Joe said, we acknowledge in this point, yeah, Turner did it. Whatever they say he did, and you're just anxiously awaiting the big aha moment of the movie at this point.
Could you guys imagine Turner with Chris Hansen? I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't meet a girl in the parking garage. Well, see, I have the chat logs, so
I think Turner would probably snap Chris Hansen's neck before he could even say anything. All right. Kale tells Ronnie, we're going to get your phone, but I need you to do something else as well. They interact via walkie-talkie and camera. He sneaks into Turner's garage, and he says it reeks in here. He gets into the car and finds his phone, and he now has Ronnie look through the blue bag. Ronnie manages to catch the camera before it falls off the car, and we see the garage door shutting. But Ronnie didn't close it. Ronnie screams, and we see him running through the house. Kale watches on, and Ronnie falls over a table. Kale runs over to his house with a baseball bat. Kale calls for Ronnie trying to get in the house. He gets to the front door that's open, and the police show up. They have him drop to the ground, and Kale tells the cops his friend is in the house. Mr. Turner walks out, and the cops ask if his friend in the house. He tells the cop there's a body in a blue bag in the garage. Ashley looks at Kale in disappointment. The cops ask Turner if they can just look around. They open the garage and drag the blue tarp out. They open it up, and it's just a deer carcass. Kale calls out Turner and asks about his friend. Probation officer tells he has to be in court at 9 a.m. and that he could press charges. Mom goes off on Kale, and she's going to go talk to Mr. Turner so he doesn't press charges. She gets over to Turner's house, and Kale's phone rings. It's Ronnie. He gets a text to look at his TV. He sees Ronnie lying in the closet with the Twinkie tower. He opens the closet, and Ronnie pranks him, and Kale is furious. Ronnie admits it was a bad joke, but he had no other option. Ronnie shows Kale the footage he got in his escape. Ronnie leaves to go pee. Kale notices something in the vent as Ronnie fell over. Kale notices it's a human face on camera. Turner slams Julie's face into the door as she goes to leave. Kale calls for Ronnie, but he's downstairs and gets a baseball bat to the face. Kale dodges a bat swing and hits him in the face with, I think it's like a piece of a computer or something. They fight more downstairs in the kitchen. He gets outside, but Turner tackles him and won't let his bracelet cross the line. He strangles Kale and punches him, knocking him out. He tapes up his feet and legs and covers his mouth. And the next two scenes are the ending. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, another very tense scene, of Ronnie in the house. Love the soundtrack again here. I thought it was a great use of mixture, of watching what Kale is seeing, with the recording and him watching through the binoculars. But you never actually, it never actually puts you inside with Ronnie. So I think that really helps, amp up the tension even more. I was frustrated right here because, he didn't just, Kale didn't just bring up the blue Mustang dented fender, all over the news with the cops. They were already a little bit convinced that something didn't feel right. I thought it was a perfect time. I guess that may have ruined the movie because, where it pretty much ended. Well, no, it didn't mean that they would have found anything. They could have, brought Mr. Turner in for questioning and, had it piss him off even more at Kale, later when he was released. I don't know. I was like, damn, come on, bring up the Mustang, the dented fender. It would have made it more realistic to me. While they're having the conversation, about him pressing charges, all I could think about the whole time was Ronnie's still over there. He wasn't, but we didn't know that, and I think the more natural thing would have been to have Kale, freaking the fuck out because he was, I don't know, I just thought he was way too casual, just still be thinking that Ronnie is over there dead or something. Something else I wanted to point out was that great fight scene with Turner and Kale. I thought it was very natural. The one punch, I love that because it was so much more realistic than the usual, quote unquote movie punches that everyone takes 5 or 10 of, without barely even showing any ramifications. So I thought just the fact that he hit him just one time and he was just out, I thought that was really good. Lastly, I spoke on it earlier, with the device kind of being its own character, and it's used that way again here. And I love how they just use it as that source of tension, like that's all he has to do is barely get it over that rope, but they kind of dangle that in front of you and then just pull it away. I thought that was great.
Yeah, this set of scenes is a little frustrating in a way. One, because I know we're kind of mad at Ronnie a little bit for accidentally being a cockblock, not reading social cues, but also we're leaving my man out to dry. We're sending him on death mission after death mission. I mean, this is ridiculous. Look, I know they're buds, but I don't know what Kale has done for Ronnie in the past, but whatever it was must have been really goddamn good because he risked his life for this motherfucker. I mean, we know we're going into what's likely a murderer's house, okay? Just to get a phone back. I don't know, man. I probably would have left well enough alone on that and let him find the phone. But anyway, this scene is a little frustrating. Brian, you touched on it, where I kind of wish if we're going to bring the cops in, I kind of wish that would have been a thing where someone finally believed Kale a little bit. But you could see it coming a mile away just because we know who the cop is now. But he even has that little bit of hesitation where, let's search the house just in case. Knowing and damn well this movie had, I paused it at that moment, see how much time was left, knowing damn well we weren't done. But you got about 29 minutes left after that point, so we're about to have nothing in this house, likely anyway. And so I kind of think it was blue balls a little bit. I'm not mad at it. It's just a little nitpick when I'm watching the flow of the movie. I think it would have flowed a little smoother to kind of, not necessarily catch him, but make him feel more creepy. But it kind of paid off a little bit because we get the scene with the mom, the pressing charges, and you really see the turn of Mr. Turner. I didn't mean to play on words there, but that's just kind of the way that worked out. I mean, he turns heel. I mean, he was already a heel, but he really turned heel here, brother. No shades of gray. He's a straight up asshole. And I think that as much as I would have liked to seen a little bit something different as far as the cops' involvement, I do think it pays off in a big way. And so you mentioned the ankle monitor. I'm going to throw it out there again. It's so weird how the littlest thing, it is its own character. I'm going to just go out and say it is very much its own character because the rope and the monitor play such a big part in this suspense. He's the moment where Kale literally says, fuck it, I'm going to get my friend, and does not care about it. You care about it as an audience. Like, oh shit, the cops are definitely coming now. I'm sure it was on purpose, but like, you really, in that moment, you realize his ankle is blinking red, and so that the shit's about to hit the fan again for Kale. So, an intense set of scenes. I like where we're going. I just wish maybe the cop involvement was a little bit different.
All right. I love the way these scenes are filmed with the walkie-talkies and the live feed video pre-iPhone status. I like it, gives it like a little bit more tense feeling because you can't see what Ronnie's doing. Only Ronnie knows what's happening. And then so when the cops called and the bracelet calls the cops and everything, I'm glad we actually got to see what was in the blue bag because, again, it had me questioning if Turner was really guilty or not. I'm like, well, that makes sense. He really could have hit the deer with his car, and that, made sense as far as the car fender being bashed in and the deer in the bag instead of a body. So it had me questioning it again, like, I don't know, maybe this would go a different way. But yeah, all I could think about was, why is he being so chill? Like, his friend is still missing. He never came out of the house. Where the hell
Thank you.
is he? Like, you're gonna ask about what's in the bag, but you're not gonna ask about where your friend is. Well, I mean, he does, but nobody does anything. They just let him go home. And when Kale's mom is talking to him about how he's breaking her heart, and he finally kind of like sees that, you know, the things that he's doing are affecting her instead of just him. You know, and he kind of has like a little bit of a change of attitude. And when he goes upstairs, and this is one of my favorite scenes with Ronnie in the closet with the Twinkie Tower, because it's just, I don't know, it brings a little humor back into the tense scenes, and I would have punched him in the face, but it was good. Feels like something my brother would have did to me. Oh yeah, when he said that his mom is keeping him out of jail, it makes you think that, okay, maybe he really did take this a little too far, but then he sees the girl in the video camera, and what kind of zoom does he have that he can see this? I mean, it's like the most clear picture you've ever seen in your life on the shittiest video camera of all time. But yeah, that's pretty much all I wrote down on that.
Yeah, I can't lie. I had more notes and I accidentally just erased them for the set of scenes on my iNotes. So we're gonna wing this a little bit. One thing I do remember noting though is that when the cops showed up, yeah, this cop clearly has it out for you. You know, he's related to the teacher you punched in the face. He clearly doesn't like you, but you might have a better shot of getting, you know, them on your side or getting some leverage and swaying the situation if you show them what you recorded previously, right? Was he recording when the redhead girl's running through the house screaming? Regardless if you think she left or not, that still makes him look like he could be a bad guy. So maybe be like, I've got it on camera, which I don't know. You might not want to tip your hand in front of Turner there and let him know that you've been recording him, but I'd be trying anything I can at this point to let the cops know, hey, I'm not the one that you need to be watching. I do think it's a good swerve with the deer being in the tarp. You know, it kind of is one of those, oh, maybe he's just over-exaggerating things. He's going stir crazy being locked in the house. He's imagining all this, and this is going to be one of those movies where we're seeing things through his perspective, so this is all going to turn out to be like Turner's just a normal neighbor, like he's just an old guy, and we're seeing this through a slanted point of view because that makes sense why he was looking for a shovel. Okay, the redheaded girl did get in her car and leave. This is a deer in the tarp. He's got to get the car to the car show. That's why I got fixed. So, like, things start clicking. You're like, well, maybe he is okay. Maybe this is going to turn out to be a false finish on this movie.
You'd still have to explain to me him in the car. Like, that to me is the thing that kind of set everything over the top for me.
Yeah, and that's fair. You'd still have to explain it, but that would, you know, they went a long way in towards making it believable though by the deer. The deer was like one of those moments where, like, maybe Kale's just going a little crazy. And in the end, it'll all work out.
I don't mean to interrupt you, Dustin, but
Okay.
me and my brother hit a deer in his 71 Monte Carlo, and it dented the fender in exactly the same spot. Just like that. Like, nothing on the hood, nothing on the door, right? And we were doing probably 80 down this old country road, and so maybe it's a little more believable to me because it literally happened to me.
It is. Sidebar. I used to have an old like a 05 or 06 Mercedes car, and I was sitting still at a red light or a stop sign one day, and a car comes sliding off the road in the rain and hit me on my driver's or on my passenger side. Had to get a new headlight. The week I got that car back out of the shop, a deer ran into my driver's side headlight, and it was the only thing damaged in both instances was like the front bumper and headlight. It was the strangest thing. So yeah, fuck deer forever.
Sounds like dinner to me. Oh, never mind.
Oh, it was funny too. Or it wasn't funny. It might be insensitive to say, but the deer that hit me, I watched the cop shoot it and put it out of its misery. But
Oh,
And
Anyway,
then you just went and got in the Ferrari and then pulled it out for the rest
sounds
of it.
like Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, which will be coming to you shortly here on Don'tGoOutThere.com.
you're cutting
God.
up, Brian. I didn't hear what you said. Yeah, like I said, I accidentally erased that whole section of notes. So the last thing I have though, and I only had it when I heard you say it, Brian. Good point on the punch. Like I too get tired of movie punches. Like they sit there and duke it out. Everybody's got iron jaws and can take punches, but hell no. We got a bigger, stronger, older man punching a high school kid in the face, and he goes down like a sack of potatoes. So shout out to that. That was good. More of that in movies. Come on.
All right, here's the ending. He got her on tape. I just wanted to live in peace. And now Turner's going to set up Kale as the killer of them all. He lays out the scenario, pinning it all on Kale. He forces Kale to write down what he did. Ashley comes inside and Kale hits Turner. He chases after them, but they manage to lock themselves in the room after a little bit of a quarrel. She gets his hands free, and Kale says they have to get ready to run. Turner starts to break through the door. The two jump out the window on the roof and into her pool. He tells her to call the cops and he's going to go get his mom. He grabs the hedge clippers and breaks into the house. The cop on Kale's case gets a call to check on Kale, but he's in no rush. Kale finds the vent from the video and starts to crawl in. He calls for mom, but is scared when he sees a dead woman right beside him. He exits the vent and hears a cry. He heads down the hall and we see Turner through the curtains. Kale finds a trap room in the walls and the officer finally shows up. Kale finds the club girl's ID and her belongings. The officer calls out for Turner as he enters the house. He hears Kale move the wall over into the disposal room, as I call it. Officer walks the halls as Kale follows the woman's cries. Turner appears behind the corner, snapping the officer's neck. Kale falls through the floor into a pool of water and is met with floating corpses. He makes it back to the top and finally gets to his mom. She's bound and mouth taped. Turner appears behind her and he and Kale fight again. Julie stabs him in the back of his leg and Kale stabs Turner in the chest with the hedge clippers, pushing him into walls over and over and finally into the pool of water with the corpses. Julie hugs Kale and they exit out of the garage. The next morning, the probation officer says he's the first one she knows of getting off early due to good behavior. Julie gets her incarceration feedback too. Kale goes outside a free man. He kisses Ashley where he first got curved at. Kale now poses as a satellite customer service rep and snitches on the kids watching porn on TV. Ashley asks if he feels better after that, and they start to make out on the couch. Ronnie is filming them now, saying they'll be the most famous video on YouTube as the end credits roll. All right, Brian, that was the ending. What did you think?
I'm kind of a mixed bag with the ending. I mean, I felt it was okay. I have some issues, but overall, I mean, it was fine. I do feel like there were some missed opportunities, though. I want to point out, I thought it was a great little touch, with the tear kind of running down Kale's face whenever his mouth was taped up with the duct tape. I really feel like that added some realism and something you don't really see in a lot in movies, and especially in those situations. And I thought it was really good. Ashley did a great job of acting scared there. I will say I did not like the Shining reference, with Mr. Turner kind of busting through and then looking through the door. I kind of rolled my eyes. I thought that was way too on the nose there. Also, the fight in the basement with Turner, I thought was really dark. I don't know if it was, hard to see. I mean, it was hard to see. I don't know if it was my TV or not, but I
No,
could.
it was hard to see. It was shot very dark, Brian.
Yeah, I could tell he got stabbed with the shears, but I was like, was that like a fatal stab? Like I couldn't really tell. And then when he fell in the water, I wasn't even convinced he was really dead because I couldn't see what the hell happened. So, I didn't really like the shot or the way that was shot or done at all there. I also, honestly, I think I would have liked another twist, and maybe, like I said earlier, honestly, had Ashley maybe turned out to be somehow helping him or something. I don't know. Either that or her or like Ronnie have a little bit more to do, maybe in the come save or help them in the basement there or something. I don't know. I felt like that they were really missed here. I will say I did love the wrap up with the neighbor kids, and him calling the mom. I'm actually a little surprised that this movie is rated PG-13, kind of with the boobs from the porn, on the kids' TV that it kept showing. But anyway, I did really like that little story wrap up and ending on like a light note. And a lot of the movies would have ended, right after with them walking out of the house or something. And so I really liked that little tidbit and kind of brought you back to that charm, from the start of the movie. So that's all I had on the ending. Again, kind of just a mixed bag for me.
Yeah, where I am on it is a little bit like you, Brian. I'm mixed. I think I'm a little more positive because I enjoy the fact that we get a quote unquote fight scene or chase or whatever you want to call that. I like that this scene heals the relationship with him and his mom, which was certainly needed as far as the story goes. And so I really, really enjoyed that. I think Mr. Turner's death is it's okay. You had to do something extreme because obviously at the end there he turned into Michael fucking Myers, where he
Yeah.
was like kind of hard to take down, and so you had to do something really really extreme. And so I guess what they ended up doing was fine. It's there's not many quote unquote kills in this movie, so we had to have something, and I think it was fine. Um, I'm like you. First of all, I love the shot of him and his mom walking out. I think that's a cool shot. I also really love how this scene ends on a funny note, getting his revenge on those shithead kids that left dog shit on his front porch. I would have done the exact same thing, except I probably would have been more violent, which is why I'm glad it was him and not me, because I'd probably still be sitting in the jail cell for that ass whooping. So, good for him. Much better revenge than what I would have given. Uh, Again, the ending is okay. It's not flat by any means to me. We kind of get to see the guy die who we wanted to see die, and I think it was a pretty satisfying death. And hero prevails, and he gets the girl. It's a very very by the book ending, which I think is okay. And again, I didn't put a different twist on an old movie. They just kind of flip up all of the notes with a little bit of a modern telling. I think that's okay. All in all, not my favorite, but not too bad either.
Okay. So why do bad guys always have to tell you their evil plan? Why? Every
Yes.
movie, tell you their evil plan. Why? All right. So, okay. So for once, this girl, when she like crab claws onto him, she scratched the shit out of his face. I mean, if you're not gonna have a weapon, I guess do what you gotta do. But then why are you sitting so close to the damn door? Like he's got weapons. What the hell's the matter with you? I like how when they jump out into the pool, because there's been so much emphasis on the pool through the whole entire movie. I like how it comes like full circle back. And then now his bracelet goes off, and all of a sudden the cop doesn't care. Give me a break. You've been all over this kid's ass for the whole entire movie, and now you're like, whatever, I'll get to it when I get to it. Yeah, okay. Convenient. When Kale gets into this guy's house, dude has a shitload of souvenirs. I don't know. It's like the fastest scene, like or shot, I guess I should say, when he goes down this stair, I guess you would call it like the basement or whatever. There's like a whole wall of shit that he's taken from these club girls. Like, homeboy was on a spree for a long time, never got caught. And then so Kel tells Ashley to make sure that the cops are coming. She doesn't. That was her only job. Make sure the cops are coming. Nope. Half an hour later, everybody's almost dead, and you're still just fucking around in the pool. And then so the feeling of Kale like walking out on the porch without his bracelet at the end. It's how I felt on Monday walking into work when I didn't have to wear my mask for the first time in a year. It was the most freedom I've felt in a long time. But yeah, and I like the end scene where he finally gets back at his little shithead neighbors. That was pretty good. I liked how it ended on a funny note. Yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah. Man, I get what you're saying about it being a mixed bag on this set of scenes, Mike. But the house scene is tense as fuck. Like when we walk through this, I mean it's fucking dark. We get the warm cookie cutter feel good ending, but man, it's dark as shit. He snapped that cop's neck. Now I will say too, like you said, Joe, it is a good point how he's been anxious to get this kid. Like anytime he crosses the line, he's there within seconds. But at the same time, his shift's ended, and he just got food, so I could see like, I'm gonna bust this kid's ass, but I'm gonna eat this meal first. But yeah, it's whatever. I could see either way on that. But I too wrote down like, why are you leaned up against the door? I hate when they do that in movies. Which scream was it when she's up against the door and she gets stabbed in the back of the head through the mail slot?
4, I think, right?
Yeah, 4. And
Movie ever.
every horror movie ever. Like, yeah, big pet peeve of mine.
Yeah.
Also, like Scream 4, we get a very Scream-like scenario where I'm gonna tell you my plan, and my plan is to frame you for all these crimes. Like, yeah, that's annoying. It works in some movies, and when it doesn't, it's like, God, it makes you realize how often they do it and how often they beat it to the ground.
Right.
And this is one of those, unfortunately, but doesn't really take away from it. It's just one of those things you roll your eyes at. But we do get the feel good ending though. Everything's fine. All the major people we care about lived. The only person that we didn't, or the only people that died, we don't give a shit about, especially that douchebag cop that was singling them out. But the revenge he gets on those kids is elite. And you mentioned it, Brian, how you're surprised that this movie was rated PG-13 because of the graphic pornos those kids were watching. But originally this movie came back rated R, and they had to appeal to get the PG-13 rating. But yeah, you would think that, okay, we'll give you the PG-13 rating, but you gotta kind of take some titties off those screens.
Yeah.
But,
you would think they would automatically go titties R.
And then, to close the movie out, once again, we get Ronnie just fucking up the church's money. You gotta learn to take social cues. Why are you recording them when they're making out? Just like, leave, go home, Roger. Like, my man's trying to make some babies, and you're just sitting there on the couch recording them like a fucking creep. So anyway, it's a decent ending. I was satisfied, and I remember it after watching this. Now, it's been a few years since I've seen this movie. I remember after watching, it's like, man, I really like that movie. So yeah, satisfactory ending.
Before I move on, I'll just say my little quick thoughts on the ending. I like the ending a lot, except I felt like Kale and Mr. Turner's last fight was kind of really fast. Like, I kind of wanted a little more fight between them in the basement. I would have liked a little more. I felt like it was just, I don't know. I would like to have seen a little more squabble between them two one last time. But let's just jump over to some like fan questions and comments real quick. Joe Black Tattoos on Instagram. He actually just followed us today. Appreciate that. He just left a comment. I'm a fan of this movie. It was a nice change of pace from the overly gory movies of the early 2000s and right before the paranormal horror boom of the 2010s. And he gave it a 7.2 out of 10. I agree with that, and that's pretty good rating. First question. All right, we'll just knock this joke. It's kind of a funny question. Friend of the show on Twitter, Elijah Trombone. He asked, "What's better, the song or the movie?" I like the song, but I'm gonna go with the movie.
Oh, brother.
Disturbia by Rihanna? Is that what we're asking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I like this movie, but you got to get that dum dum dee dum 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 da dum dum. Yeah, no, I'm still going with the movie, but it does get stuck in my head.
Hot take, man. I'm not a big Rihanna fan.
Here we go.
I like a few of her songs, but overall, man, I just, I can't get past that big ass forehead. Go ahead, someone else.
I definitely say movie, but every time I think of the name of this movie, the song does get stuck in my head. So.
Absolutely.
And the song came out, what, a year later? I think it was
a year later, yeah. Yep.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that. All right, Sean Irwin, he commented on Twitter. Hitchcock remake, excellent choice. What was the most ridiculous thing that Shia did in this movie? Oh,
it's
man.
fucking laundry. Fucking laundry.
Make a fucking
That was the most
Twinkie
ridiculous
tower.
thing he did in this movie.
He made a Twinkie tower and didn't eat a single one. What a waste of Hostess cakes, man. Fuck out of here.
I'm gonna go with the fact that he just got mad. What's he want his privacy for? It's like, bruh, do you not understand what? You don't understand what it means, though. We just want some privacy. Not
You
everyone's on
repeat
house
the
arrest
question one
and
more time.
visible. He
What's
said,
the
"What was the
question?
most ridiculous thing that Shia did in this movie?"
Probably creeping on your half naked neighbor in broad fucking daylight with the
Yeah,
windows open.
I was
yeah.
gonna say left all of his lights on, being a creeper. Like they can
Yeah.
see you, dude. They can see you. They know.
This girl didn't even care. He was simping over like that.
Yeah.
Anywho, it worked out. Let's jump into fun facts real quick. We've said a lot of them. I'm just gonna read. I only got 2 left. This is from IMDb. Executive producer Steven Spielberg arranged for Shia LaBeouf to be on the casting shortlist for this film because he was impressed by LaBeouf's work on Holes from 2003. Disturbia, in turn, convinced Spielberg that LaBeouf could handle the action starring roles in Transformers and Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Then, after Shia slammed Spielberg to the press after the debacle that was Crystal Skull, LaBeouf ensured that he would never work with Spielberg or DreamWorks again. My last one I have is at around 5 minutes. Director DJ Caruso felt that instead of showing his father's mutilated corpse after the car accident, it would be more emotional to show Kale's devastated facial expression and let the audience use their imagination. And I'm glad they did that. I like that. It was a touching scene. Anybody else got fun facts? Want to go?
I got 2
Go
quick
ahead,
ones.
fam.
I did mention there that Sarah Reamer, she plays Ashley, of course, but she's married to House of Wax star Chad Michael Murray. So I'm not 100% sure, but is that the first time that we've done movies by someone by a star of one movie and a star of another movie that aren't in the movie together? Because we had, of course, Courtney Cox Arquette and the GOAT David Arquette, but they were in the same movie together. Anyway, and also I would like to point out
Same
that
with Sarah Michelle Gellar and Freddie Prinze.
Freddie Prinze Jr. Yeah.
Yep.
So this might be the first time that we've done
That's
2
interesting.
movies with spouses. But, another unrelated news, if she ever wants a new spouse, I'm available. And then the last thing that I have is that, I actually already said that about the movie was originally rated R, but they re-rated it PG-13 after appeal.
So yeah, real quick, this movie had a budget of $20 million, and worldwide it grossed $118.1 million. That's 80 in the U.S. So pretty good. Obviously, this isn't a movie that needs or requires some kind of follow up. So pretty good for a one off there. And I just want to say I've made it through a whole episode without a call me sometime. I am a classy son of a bitch.
Because your girlfriend's there.
I was gonna say, didn't you?
She's not. She's upstairs.
Mm, mm.
She's here
Brian,
every
Joe,
episode,
y'all got
pal.
any fun facts?
No,
Or
I
y'all-
don't.
No, that was all I had, was the ones I said and the ones y'all read.
All right, well, let's
Hey.
jump into
Kale's
rating
mom.
favorite kill and least favorite kill.
Kale's
I'll
mom.
go first tonight. I'll just go ahead and knock mine out. Favorite kill, I picked Turner, and I wrote kind of by default, but a hedge clipper death is really cool. You don't really see that a lot. My least favorite, even though the scene was powerful, I picked Dad just because it's so heartbreaking. Man, that would be painful to see your parent die like that. My rating, I remember renting this movie back when it came out and getting pizza with my buddies after church and really enjoying this movie. Fast forward 13, 14 years, and I still really like it. I think it's entertaining throughout. The acting, especially LaBeouf, is great. I think David Morse was excellent as a serial killer neighbor and was very creepy. I have nitpicks like the quality of pictures Ashley was sending to Kale. There ain't no way androids can't even send pictures that good in 2021. How she just thought it how she just thought it was cool that she was being spied on. I can't believe that. How Ronnie escaped the house scratch free, basically, and just so happened to fall perfectly for the camera to see the body. But anywho, I still like this movie a lot and always enjoy watching it. And I gave it an 8.25.
Samsung is never sponsoring us, by the way.
Not even.
Just want to point out to all of our Android
Hey, money
listeners,
talks,
we
though.
love you.
My slander will.
It's just jokes. It's just jokes to all of our Android users. We love you. Just kidding, guys. I'll go ahead and go real quick. Also, Kale's mom, call me sometime. So anyway, my favorite kill is Mr. Turner. My least favorite, I didn't really have one. I guess the cop, even though that was kind of satisfying, but it's just kind of a neck break a little bit. So whatever. Really really like the movie. I think it's a pretty quick watch. It's a fast pace. You never feel the time, the runtime, which again is a big thing with me. I just, a few minor nitpicks, story wise. I kind of compare Kale to Joe Goldberg. I stand by that. So again, not a likable bad guy like Joe, but like in the same vein anyway. Where there's some points in the movie where I don't know if he, you guys kind of touched on it. Where is he the one that's crazy? Like, I kind of like that aspect of the movie all along, and so I think that, along with the ankle monitor being a plot device, there's just a lot to like. And one of our listeners mentioned it. It was placed right between the torture porn phase and the,
Paranormal.
all the paranormal stuff. That's a really good point that I hadn't thought about. That's very, very true.
Right.
Probably one of my favorite PG-13 rated horror movies that we've done or that I've seen. I think it really kind of fits nicely into that category. All that being said, I give this a 7.25 out of 10. Messing up our algorithm, brother.
I know it doesn't really show many kills on screen, but I mean, you honestly couldn't, right? I mean, then you give away, that Turner is really sick, and you have that what if taken away. So I get it. But my favorite kill, I'm gonna go with Turner, I guess, because even though I could barely see it, and you talk about the hedge clipper deaths being, yeah, I mean, you're right. Roy from Friday 5 says hi. But my least favorite kill actually goes to the cop, because I'm calling bullshit on that neck break. You're strong enough to do that, but you can't just dominate like a little high school kid whenever you're fighting. No, I don't buy that one at all. So it's definitely my least favorite. The production company actually, Spielberg's production company actually got sued, I think, over the plot being so close to Hitchcock's film, and even like you said, a fan just called it a remake. So I think they found that it wasn't exactly copied or anything like that, but I do feel like that it kind of missed a little twist. I would have, I think if you gave me a little twist or changed it just a little bit, I think I would have rated it a little bit higher. I'm still going to give it a 7.5. But I think if you'd have done something a little bit different, you'd have had me hook, line, and sinker, no pun intended, from the opening scene. Go ahead.
I'll go next. So my favorite kill is actually the dad, but not because I think
Wow.
because
Wow.
it hit me
Wow.
so
Damn.
hard. Like
Wow.
I
It's
remember.
morbid, Joe.
I'm sorry. But it's so memorable, and every time I watch it, it hurts to watch. So I think that's gotta be, I don't know, it's gotta be something. That's one of the things I remembered most about this movie before I watched it again. Least favorite kill is Turner, so I'm opposite from everybody. It's because, just like, I can't remember who said it, but I feel like that the end fight should have been a little bit longer. It was like 3 minutes and he was dead. Like, you done killed all these girls and that's it. That's all we got. I felt like that needed a little bit more. I give Moon an 8. That's my rating, because I like, I can rewatch it. I like the dialogue, the acting, the chemistry. The story goes pretty quick for me, so I could watch it again. It's my rewatchability scale of an 8. And then I will say one more thing. There's another movie that's kind of like this, kind of like Rear Window. If you guys want to watch it, it's called Summer of '84, and it's like an '80s version of this. So kind of like Stranger Things meets Disturbia. Pretty good. So
I love Summer of '84 better than this movie. So
yeah.
if anyone ever wants to pick that, you know what? Maybe I'll pick it. Fuck it.
All right. So, yeah, my favorite kill, I went with Officer Gutierrez, because that son of a gun deserved it. Listen, you've been singling Kel out this whole movie, and then you show up, and I don't feel like your heart was really in it, even though you see the sign of forced entry. You see the shattered glass. You still didn't call for backup. You just strolled in there like Billy Badass. You didn't clear the corner before. That's rookie hour. You got to clear the corner before you come across it. So you deserve to get your neck snapped. Sorry. My least favorite kill was the dad's death because of how it made me feel. I get what you're saying, though, Joe. I mean, it is definitely the most memorable and impactful death in the whole movie.
Yep.
So as far as invoking emotion, yeah, it's definitely the best one as far as that goes. But I don't like how it made me feel. So I'm going to go with it being my least favorite. This movie, very enjoyable, very rewatchable. It's the thriller aspect doesn't really take over. It's not prevalent through the whole movie, so that detracts from it some as far as what we do. As far as rating this as a horror movie, but just as a good movie overall, or as a movie overall, I think it's very good, and I definitely recommend it. I'm glad you picked it. The certain scenes, the climax happened too quickly, like you said there. The fight scene, I wanted more there, but that's okay. Overall, I gave the movie a 7.25, and so that puts our composite rating at a 7.65.
Ah, very nice.
Nicely.
Fun fact: Officer Gutierrez, who's Jose Pablo Cantillo, is in one of my favorite franchises, Crank. I love those movies. He's also in Chappie.
Never
And we
heard
were
of it.
we were a little
Anywho.
higher than the IMDb average too. They had it as 6.8, but like I've said before, what the hell do they know?
That's right.
Nothing.
We're the experts here.
Hey, does anyone got any final thoughts on Disturbia before I just give a quick shout out to our blood donors?
Dum
No, sir.
dum dee dum dum dum
Stop that.
dum.
Stop that.
Disturbia. Oh, I'm sorry. Anywho, let's give a shout out to our blood donors, our legendary blood donors first. One who has joined us tonight, Miss Joe Swinford. Great to have you. The guy who hates all my movies for some reason, Sean Irwin, aka Dustin's twin, I guess.
For some reason, I think it's damn good anyway.
Man is pig bones, and Jason Takes Manhattan over here. Halloween 3 lover Matt Sears, super fan of the show Shan Petrosevich. Big shout out to Shan, she's awesome. And big shout out to Michelle Mirza, super nice, always has great feedback for us. Really appreciate it. Few Dream Warriors, Miss Tasha Reed, and my guy Hunter Nelson, and camp counselor, blood donor Mickey McCrane. Thank all of our blood donors for just donating money in a pretty tough time right now to help us keep these podcasts pumping. So it means a lot to us that you're willing to donate money to help us put this show together, because it's not free, contrary to popular belief. Takes a little money to make it go round.
Absolutely not.
Well, since Brian keeps joking that he's the only one interested in the movie we're doing next week, why don't you go ahead and announce what we're doing?
Well, we're doing, being that we don't ever get to do this at all, and since all these crazy times with COVID, they're releasing some of these movies on demand, thankfully. But we're getting Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead, which is kind of it's in the same universe. I don't want to say it's a follow-up or a sequel to 2004's Dawn of the Dead remake that he did, but it's in the same universe. So I'm excited about it. You know how much I love that remake. I rated it very high, and I picked it back, way early. You can listen to it on don'tgooutthere.com. But I am looking forward to it. I'm not really looking forward to the 2.5-hour runtime, but that's kind of Zack Snyder thing. I'm a Zack Snyder stan, self-proclaimed. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it looks really good. But we're doing Army of the Dead, and it's going to be, pretty much, it's going to, obviously we're doing a review, so it's going to be super spoiler filled. If you don't watch it on demand next weekend, don't listen to the show until you do.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to that. I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm ready to check it out. I've been watching a few zombie movies recently. I watched World War Z a couple weeks ago. It was pretty good too.
That movie too. Yep,
that's right.
And speaking of being on, just going to give this a shout out one more time. We're trying to keep up with the stuff that's coming out due to COVID. A lot of stuff got delayed. Go over to YouTube, subscribe, check out me and Mike's Minor Spoiler Instant Reaction to Spiral.
and go check out Spiral. It's a pretty good movie. I think y'all will
Absolutely.
enjoy it. Just want to thank Miss Joe for joining us and being a blood
Yes.
donor and a longtime super fan of the show.
Number one
Appreciate
fan.
you joining. Number one fan. I'll let all the number one fans argue about that.
Oh, we will. We will.
Yeah, thank you so much for everything that you do and
Yes,
for
thank you, Joe.
support, all your support, and for coming on. So thanks for picking this movie too. It's great.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
We're already an hour and 53 into
Hey,
it. No
Nico.
need to go ahead,
Hey,
Mike.
Nico. Before you hang up, I normally don't do this, but I just want to say, hey, if you do prayers, cool. If you don't, that's fine. Just send some positive thoughts and vibes and prayers my family's way right now. It's getting a little tough, and I appreciate all you guys who've already reached out. But I feel like we have a personal relationship with our audience, and I felt like it's really good to let them know it's not a super awesome time right now. So just if you have any kind of thoughts and prayers and positive vibes, that'd be great. If you send them the old Settle family way, I appreciate that.
Absolutely, man. Um, we gotta have each other's back and all of our love for each other. So, absolutely, send some positivity and prayers to Mike's way. Uh, Thank you, listeners, fans, for listening. We really appreciate it. Y'all are awesome. And we'll be back next week with Army of the Dead, and we may or may not have another interview and stuff in the works for you guys. Y'all have a good one.
Calm down.